Tuvok's most devastating Star Trek Voyager story is a sneaky TNG reference. Tuvok's, Tim Russ, saddest storyline in Star Trek Voyager Season 4 also acts as a reference to Star Trek The Next Generation. Russ was a veteran Star Trek actor when he joined the main cast of Voyager in 1995, but Tuvok quickly became his most recognizable and popular role in the franchise. As the first Vulcan to be a main character on a Star Trek show since Star Trek, the original series, Tuvok was one of Voyager's most interesting characters and brought a delightful familiarity to the show with his logical personality and close friendship with Captain Janeway, Kate Mulgrew. Although Tuvok was perhaps not Voyager's most popular character, the show wouldn't have been the same without him, and he experienced some truly memorable storylines during its run. Some of these were more lighthearted, but one of Tuvok's darkest arcs came in the Season 4 two-part episode Year of Hell, which saw the USS Voyager under extended attack by Anarax Kurtwood Smith of the Krenim Imperium. During one of these attacks, Tuvok was tragically blinded by an explosion. Tuvok's blindness was arguably the saddest part of Year of Hell, but may have also been a subtle TNG reference. Tuvok's blindness in Star Trek Voyager season may forth be a Geordi LaForge reference, making Tuvok blind in Year of Hell may have been Voyager's way of paying tribute to Tim Russ's audition to play Geordi LaForge in Star Trek The Next Generation. As mentioned, Russ had acted in several smaller parts in the Star Trek franchise before landing Tuvok, and along with these had previously auditioned for the role of Geordi during TNG's casting process. The role ended up going to LeVar Burton, but Star Trek's core creative team would certainly have known that Russ had been on the shortlist to play the famous TNG character. The choice to make Tuvok blind in Year of Hell could have been Voyager's way of acknowledging Russ's TNG audition, given that Geordi was also famously blind. Similar references are not unheard of in the Star Trek timeline's history. The fact that Russ had hoped to play Geordi might not have been known by a wider audience, but given the overlap in writers and producers across the 1990s era of Star Trek, much of Voyager's creative team would likely have been aware and may have decided to use Tuvok's arc in Year of Hell as a form of inside joke. Why Tim Russ lost out on playing Geordi on Star Trek TNG. The fact that Tim Russ lost out on playing Geordi on TNG may seem surprising now, but at the time, casting LeVar Burton in the role likely made more sense. Burton was a more experienced actor and familiar face for audiences, having already made a name for himself in Roots and Reading Rainbow. Although Russ was an equally strong actor in his own right, it seems the casting process came down to visibility, something Russ had yet to cultivate a lot of with his other roles. While losing the role was likely disappointing for Russ, time has proven that Geordi's casting decision was undoubtedly the right choice. Burton continues to embody the role, making it hard to imagine anyone else in it, and the same can be said for Tuvok on Star Trek Voyager. Both Tuvok and Geordi have become incredibly important parts of the Star Trek franchise, and neither role would be the same without Tim Russ or LeVar Burton having been cast exactly as they were. The casting decisions behind iconic characters in film and television can be pivotal, both for the actors involved and for the future of the franchise. One such instance occurred during the casting of Geordi LaForge on Star Trek The Next Generation TNG. Tim Russ, now widely known for his role as Tuvok on Star Trek Voyager, was one of the contenders for the part of Geordi. However, the role ultimately went to LeVar Burton, a casting decision that, while possibly surprising to some today, likely made perfect sense at the time. Although Russ was an equally talented actor, Burton's previous work and visibility gave him an edge that would prove important in shaping the legacy of the Star Trek franchise. In 1987, when TNG was being cast, Burton was already a well-established name in television. His standout performance as Kunta Kinte in the groundbreaking 1977 miniseries Roots had earned him significant critical acclaim, and he was also a beloved figure in children's television due to his role as the host of Reading Rainbow. For a show like Star Trek The Next Generation, which was designed to reach a broad audience while building on the legacy of the original Star Trek, casting a familiar and well-liked actor like Burton was a strategic move. His presence helped attract viewers who might not have been die-hard science fiction fans, but were drawn in by his recognizable face and established talent. Tim Russ, while certainly a skilled actor, did not yet have the same level of visibility at that point in his career. In the 1980s, he had made a few notable appearances on television, including roles in shows like Hill Street Blues and The Twilight Zone, but he had yet to land a breakout role. From a casting perspective, the decision likely came down to the question of which actor could not only deliver the performance, but also bring with them an audience. For a series with the ambition and scope of TNG, choosing Burton was a move that ensured wider appeal and greater recognition for a character who would go on to become a central figure in the Star Trek universe. Losing out on the role of Geordi LaForge was probably disappointing for Tim Russ, but in hindsight, it seems that everything worked out for the best. LeVar Burton made the role of Geordi his own, portraying the blind engineer with a warmth, intelligence, and likability that fans quickly embraced. His performance as Geordi became one of the touchstones of TNG, and over time, Burton became one of the franchise's most beloved actors. His ability to bring depth to a character who initially seemed defined by his role as the tech guy was one of the reasons Geordi LaForge became such an integral part of the series. Meanwhile, Tim Russ found his place in the Star Trek universe just a few years later when he was cast as Tuvok, the Vulcan security officer aboard the USS Voyager in Star Trek Voyager, which debuted in 1995. Russ's portrayal of Tuvok is arguably one of the best interpretations of a Vulcan character since Leonard Nimoy's Spock. He brought a sense of gravitas, discipline, and subtle emotional depth to Tuvok, creating a character who was both alien and relatable. While Russ did not get to play Geordi, his eventual role as Tuvok allowed him to make his own indelible mark on the Star Trek franchise. In many ways, the casting of both Geordi LaForge and Tuvok demonstrates how the right actor can elevate a character into something truly iconic. Burton's history in dramatic roles helped him bring empathy and nuance to Geordi, whose journey as a disabled officer navigating the challenges of his position was groundbreaking in its representation. Burton's natural charisma also ensured that Geordi wasn't just a background character, but a fan favorite. Similarly, Russ's performance as Tuvok was instrumental in establishing Voyager's tone and dynamic. Tuvok, as the unflappable, logical Vulcan, offered a counterpoint to the emotional and often impulsive actions of his crewmates, grounding the show in a way that was vital to its success. Russ's ability to convey emotion without breaking the character's Vulcan stoicism was no small feat and contributed to Tuvok becoming a standout character on Voyager. In retrospect, the casting decisions for both roles were perfect. Burton and Russ each brought something unique to their respective characters, shaping them into memorable parts of the Star Trek legacy. The franchise is known for its exploration of diverse personalities and philosophies, and both Geordi and Tuvok represent that diversity in different but complementary ways. Burton's warmth as Geordi and Russ's cool precision as Tuvok have left lasting impressions on the Star Trek community, and it's hard to imagine anyone else playing these characters. Ultimately, while Tim Russ may have missed out on the role of Geordi, the paths taken by both actors demonstrate the unpredictable nature of casting and how everything can fall into place exactly as it should. Both Geordi LaForge and Tuvok are essential to the Star Trek universe, and neither character would be the same without LeVar Burton or Tim Russ having been cast exactly as they were. The casting choices made back in the 1980s and 1990s proved to be the right ones, creating two unforgettable characters that continue to resonate with audiences today.